They say the sea keeps its secrets. I tell you, it sometimes whispers them. You young ones, with your charts and your newfangled engines, you think you know the ocean. But there are places on that endless blue where maps lie, where the compass spins like a maddened soul. Places where fleets have sailed and never returned. Not a splinter, not a whisper, only silence and a dread that settles deep in the bones of any who venture too near. I speak of one such fleet, a Drowned Armada, lost to time, or perhaps lost to something else. Many years have passed, yet the memory remains. It clings to me like the cold sea fog. I was younger then, aboard the salvage vessel. We were a hardy crew. We thought ourselves masters of our trade, unafraid of what the depths might offer up. We sought the remnants of forgotten voyages. We found something far older, something that should have remained lost. This is not a story I tell for sport. It is a warning. Listen closely, for the sea has many voices. Some are the crash of waves, the call of gulls, but there are other voices, murmurs from below. Our voyage on the began like any other. Hope was high, the weather fair. We were searching for a rumored merchant convoy, lost centuries ago with a cargo of spice and silver. For weeks, we trawled the designated area. Nothing. Just the endless roll of the waves, the vast emptiness of the sea. Then, our nets brought up something strange. Not gold, not silver. It was a piece of dark, waterlogged wood, carved with symbols I had never seen. They seemed to writhe. They felt wrong to the touch. Cold, despite the sun's warmth. A chill snaked down my spine. The captain, a practical man named Elias Thorne, dismissed it. Old wood, nothing more, he declared. But his eyes lingered on the carvings. The next day we found more. A bronze helmet, green with age, yet strangely intact. Its design was alien, fierce. It seemed to stare back at us with empty sockets. Then, a tattered banner fragment. The day after we stowed the last of those disturbing relics, the sea changed. The sky, once a brilliant azure, became a flat, lifeless grey. The wind died, utterly. The ocean transformed into a vast, oily sheet of glass, reflecting nothing. An unnatural stillness fell. The only sound was the thrum of our own engines. It felt intrusive, profane almost. The gulls that had followed us for weeks vanished. There were no dolphins, no sign of life. Just our small ship, alone on an empty, waiting expanse. A profound sense of isolation began to creep into our hearts. Then, the fog appeared. It was not a natural sea mist. This was different. It rose from the water itself, like steam from a colossal, unseen cauldron. It was thick, clammy. It had a peculiar faint odor like ancient dust and something else. Something metallic and vaguely organic. It swirled in slow, deliberate patterns, as if it were alive, as if it were watching us. Visibility dropped to mere feet. The world shrank to the confines of our vessel. The silence deepened, broken only by the drip of condensation from the rigging. Hours passed within that suffocating, silent fog. Or perhaps it was days. Time itself seemed to warp, to stretch and compress in that unnatural realm. Then a new sound, Faint at first, a creaking, like old timbers under strain. It grew louder, closer. It was joined by other sounds. The ghostly snap of canvas, the sigh of water against unseen hulls. My heart hammered against my ribs. We were not alone in this pallid wasteland. Something was out there with us, hidden by the swirling opaque curtain. Suddenly, a shape loomed out of the mist. Immense, towering, a colossal mast draped with what looked like tattered spectral sails. Then another, and another. They were ships, dozens of them, emerging from the fog like phantoms. They were ancient warships. Their designs were archaic, brutal. Their hulls were dark, encrusted with centuries of oceanic growth. Yet they moved with a silent, purposeful grace. As the ghostly procession continued, one vessel began to separate from the others. It was larger than the rest, a true behemoth of a warship. Its forecastle rose like a dark, crumbling fortress. Its masts, though bare of most sail, scraped the oppressive ceiling of the fog. This, we knew instinctively, was the flagship. It moved with a slow, inexorable majesty, not towards us, not directly, but it altered its course. It seemed to be creating a space, an opening in its spectral formation, as if inviting us to look closer, or perhaps to join them. The flagship was a ruin, yet it held a terrible grandeur. Intricate carvings, barely visible beneath layers of slime and barnacles, adorned its stern. They depicted scenes of conquest, of monstrous sea creatures bowing to a crowned figure, the same figure we had seen on those strange coins. Empty gun ports stared like hollow eye sockets. From somewhere deep within its decaying structure, we heard a sound, a single, mournful toll, like a great, cracked bell. It echoed across the still water. Against all reason, a boarding party was formed. Captain Thorne, myself, and 3 of the bravest, or perhaps most foolish, of the crew. We rowed across the unnervingly still water in a small dinghy. The flagship loomed larger with every stroke of the oars. Its decaying hull towered over us. A stench of ancient rot and something else, something indescribably foul, assaulted our nostrils. Rope ladders, encrusted and slimy, hung down its sides. They looked impossibly fragile. Yet, they held our weight as we ascended into the unknown. Stepping onto the deck was like entering a tomb. A thick layer of grey, silken dust covered everything. It muffled our footsteps. The wood beneath was soft, spongy with decay. Yet, the ship felt solid. Too solid. As if preserved by some unnatural force. Cannons, green with verdigris, still stood at their stations. Ropes lay coiled as if ready for use, though they crumbled at the slightest touch. There was no sign of any crew, no bodies, no bones, just an overwhelming sense of desolation and of unseen presences, watching, waiting. We moved cautiously, lanterns held high. Panic erupted. Finn babbled incoherently, clawing at his own face. The rest of us turned to flee. The whispers grew louder, closer. They seemed to coalesce into mocking, guttural laughter. Shapes flickered at the edge of our lantern light, shadows that detached themselves from the deeper darkness. They were not human. They were suggestions, distortions of form that hinted at horrors beyond comprehension. The very air grew thick, viscous. It felt like wading through unseen cobwebs. The ship itself seemed to groan around us, a malevolent intelligence awakening. We scrambled back towards the deck. The corridors seemed to shift, to lengthen. Doors slammed shut in our path, moved by no visible hand. A chilling wind swept through the vessel, extinguishing 2 of our lanterns. We were plunged into near darkness. Only my lantern remained, casting wild, dancing shadows. I could hear the others stumbling, crying out. One man shrieked, a sound abruptly cut off. I dared not look back. The pressure in my head was immense. The scent of decay was now mixed with something else, an acrid, burning odor. We reached the more dead than alive. 2 of our boarding party were gone, lost to the horrors of that accursed vessel. The remaining crew hauled us aboard, their faces etched with fear and disbelief at our wild-eyed appearance. Captain Thorne, a man I had known as steadfast and resolute, was broken. He stared blankly ahead, muttering about the charts, the whispers, the dissolving stain. He never truly recovered. He died a year later in a quiet sanatorium by the sea, still whispering of the Drowned Armada and the things he had seen in the flagship's cabin. The fog did not lift immediately. It clung to us for another day, a silent, oppressive companion. The phantom fleet remained, distant shadows on the edge of perception. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the fog began to dissipate. The sun, a pale disk at first, broke through. The unnatural stillness of the sea gave way to a gentle swell. The Armada was gone, vanished as if it had never been. We were alone again, but the world felt different, colder, more fragile. We had glimpsed something behind the veil, something ancient and terrible, and it had seen us. So now you know my tale, or at least as much of it as words can convey. Some things, you see, are beyond language, beyond human comprehension. They can only be felt. A cold dread in the pit of your stomach, a prickling of the skin that signals the proximity of the truly unnatural. The Drowned Armada is out there. I am certain of it, sailing its eternal patrol. A silent testament to a power that defies our understanding of life and death. A power that resides in the deep, dark places of the world. Why did it let us go? Why me? These are questions that have haunted my waking hours and my dreams for decades. Perhaps we were too insignificant, mere insects briefly noticed, then dismissed. Or perhaps some part of us was taken, some vital spark left behind on that ghastly flagship, or claimed by those spectral tendrils. I often feel a coldness within me, a hollowness that was not there before, as if I am a vessel carrying a shard of that abyssal chill, a living ghost marked by the sea's darkest secret. Be wary of the sea, respect its immensity, its power, but also fear its depths. Fear what it hides, for not all that is lost remains lost.